So briefly about UNICEF. UNICEF is part of the United Nations family, working in more than 190 countries and territories, with a big focus on helping children to survive and thrive. The 5 key areas where we are involved in and other plastic ends up in waterways, rivers, and the ocean, and even in our food chain. Another problem is water pollution because of illegal dumping of waste in water. Like what happened recently with the water, which led to water disruptions in KL and surroundings, and also a serious incident last year in Kim River, which affected many people, especially children. Then there is also the environmental issue of flooding due to increase in rain intensity, which scientists have linked to climate change, and sometimes just because drainage systems are blocked by plastic and other waste. So what is the role of UNICEF in all of this? Well, this year, UNICEF has set climate change, youth engagement, and reimagining a world post-COVID-19 as key themes for the World Children's Day. In Malaysia, we are funding studies and research to better understand the impact of climate change and environmental degradation on specifically children, including the assessment of existing policies and practices. This evidence will be used to identify ways to support government and other stakeholders in developing and implementing child-friendly climate and environmental policies and plans.
This one is not open to public.
Another area where we plan to work on is the empowerment. There is a bit of feedback coming in. Another area where we plan to work on is the empowerment of children and youth, including formal education with knowledge, skills, tools, and resources to take action against environmental issues in their homes, schools, and communities. We also support action and campaigns to promote sustainable practices and to reduce waste and pollution. Another area which I would like to highlight is the strengthening of platforms to allow young people to participate in policy dialogue and climate change. We just launched yesterday, actually, a report in which we conducted a survey in Malaysia, and there is the majority of youth in Malaysia, 92%, who indicated that they see climate change is a big risk, with the majority willing to take action, but at the same time they face many challenges to do so. And lastly, we see the importance of supporting and piloting innovation and solutions that directly benefit children. An example of this is from Côte d'Ivoire in West Africa. Here, UNICEF is working with local and international partners to use plastic waste to build schools, And doing this is not only addressing the issue of plastic, but also contributing to the education system in the country. At the same time, these initiatives are opportunities to inspire children and their communities to recycle waste and adopt sustainable practices. And lastly, we have an event today as well at 8, which is facilitated by young climate champions in Malaysia. Feel free to join. Thank you very much. Back to you, Mr. Thomas.
Thanks, Ismail, for that very interesting and informative session on what UNICEF is up to. I'm now going to pass to Aaron or Bertie. Over to you, Bertie.
Yeah, thank you so much, David. For those of you who don't know me or don't know the work that I did at Scuba Zoo and for Scuba Zoo TV, I'll just give a little bit of an overview now. So I was approached by Simon Christopher, who was the former head of Scuba Zoo. That was about 7 years ago. And I was a photojournalist living in Africa, specializing in documenting human-animal conflict. And I met with Simon on a rainy day in London in Starbucks. I was at a bit of a loose end with my career. And Simon started talking to me about Sabah and about Malaysia, and started talking to me about all of these groups who were working there to try and protect Sabah and their natural resources. He told me about Danau Garang Field Center, who were studying, the charismatic animals within Borneo. He told me about the Wildlife Rescue Unit and some of the problems caused by human-animal conflict and how they're working to mitigate that. And he told me also about the underwater riches of Sabah, and he painted these very colorful pictures of the world's best dive sites and of Sipadan, which is commonly voted the best dive site on the planet. And Simon said, look, you have to come over here, you have to see what's happening. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to start up a new online TV company called Scuba Zoo TV. And I want you to head up some of our shows. So I said, sure, why not? And I pretty much jumped on the next plane. And that was, I think that was about in 2004. And I was to spend the next 5 or 6 years of my life traveling around Sabah and meeting all of the people who are working to protect wildlife and to protect the environment, and making short, very educational but quite fun documentaries. I called it Funservation. Which my colleagues all hated, but very kind of, I would say, like amusing, fun, kind of short conservation films for Scuba Zoo TV. Now, if anyone hasn't seen those, you can watch all of them on www.scubazoo.tv. I think we did numerous different series. We did one called Borneo Jungle Diaries, which was, like I touched upon earlier, following the work of Danau Garang Field Center on the banks of the Kinabatangan. We did Borneo Wildlife Warriors, working with the Wildlife Rescue Unit, where I spent a year going on countless animal rescues and relocations with the Wildlife Rescue Unit. And we did a show called Borneo from Below. And Borneo from Below, we produced about 30 different episodes, each looking at different and important stories around Sabah. So we would look at different interesting animals, whether it was sharks or frogfish or nudibranchs. We would look at the people who were working to try and protect the waters around Sabah. So the scientists, the educators, the NGO workers, so people who were kind of dedicating their lives to helping Sabah. Because whilst I saw that, yes, these were, just as Simon was telling me, these were some of the most special waters in the entire world, there are also big problems. And the problems come in the form of overfishing. It comes in the form of, unsustainable targeting of marine life. And it comes in the form of plastic pollution. And you just have to travel around Sabah and to some of the dive sites, and just at the very gateway to Sipadan, you have some of the worst plastic pollution that that we've ever seen. So Simon's view and my view was that we can use the media, or we can utilize the media in order to get important messages out. And that's what we're here to do today. So that's kind of enough about me. I'd like to now introduce Carly and Yukon of Tenby School's Setia Eco Park, and they have also been working in the field of video production, and they have been working on a video all about plastic pollution. So I'd like to hand over now, and so we can all just watch this short video.
Every year, 8 million metric tons of plastic end up in our oceans.
Marine pollution is a combination of chemicals and trash, most of which come from land sources and is washed or blown into the ocean. This damages the environment and the health of all organisms living within, and economic structures worldwide.
We have dumped so much plastic that as of today, 5.25 trillion macro and micro plastic pieces are floating in the open ocean. Why do we have this pollution? This is caused by poor waste management, littering, illegal dumping, and fishing.
This has a drastic effect on our oceans. All the rubbish that we send to our seas leaves 100,000 marine animals and 1 million seabirds dead every year, and these numbers only keep rising. Unfortunately, nearly half of that rubbish is fishing gear, and most of that is plastic.
The problem with plastics is that they are completely non-biodegradable. They only break down to smaller pieces and then are consumed by unsuspecting sea animals, which leads to their stomachs filling up with plastic parts and eventually dying from starvation.
This all extends to us too, especially those who love seafood. Any live produce from the sea can be affected by chemicals released by plastic or directly consume plastic, which then end up on our plate. Plastic trash existing in rivers are also used as drinking water by residents, which can be harmful for the same reasons. This can also cause water disruptions, which prompt the sale of water bottles and takeaways, which then go full cycle with marine pollution.
We can't change what we've already done, but it doesn't have to continue this way. We must choose alternatives to purchasing plastic. We must make an effort to change our habits for the better.
Other waste that has to be disposed properly, like batteries or sanitary products, sometimes do end up in seas or even rivers if not taken care of properly.
This problem spans from sperm whales eating car parts and bits of microplastic getting stuck in the gills of fish.
This can lead to the spread of extremely harmful chemicals into our drinking water, which can cause water disruptions. These then prompt the sale of water bottles and takeaways, which then go full cycle with marine pollution.
The living world is a unique and spectacular marvel. Yet the way we humans live on Earth is sending it into a decline.
There can be change.
That change starts from you.
Okay, thank you so much. A really well produced and very informative film there from the guys at Tenby School's Setia Eco Park. I was just wondering, actually, we've got Carly, who was one of the makers of the film. Are you able to give us a bit of background about the film?
So the main intent of the video is to display some of the habits which we don't really see as problematic, because it's just habitual to do something like buy water bottles or say throw away your batteries because people don't really see it as a problem, and we need to show them that these are unsustainable habits because obviously if we keep doing these, then it just creates more landfill, and also this ends up in the ocean.
How big a problem do you think that plastic pollution is then locally?
I think the issue of plastic pollution is pretty big. I guess is a relative term, but yeah, I'd say it's pretty important for people to take notice of.
Okay, and how did you choose some of the different content that went into making that film? How did you choose what to include? Because it's such a huge issue, isn't it? It can be quite overwhelming. So to be able to condense that into a short video is quite challenging.
Right. We tried to relate it to the things that people would normally do in their daily lives and try to explain why it's not a sustainable habit to do and what sort of things we should be improving upon.
Okay, maybe a question for Yukan now. Yukan, why do you think it's important that people who are watching this, why do you think it's important that we reduce and reuse our plastic?
Mostly because this product is, it stays around for a really long time. So if you do just use it and then throw it away, it ends up in places and then it can cause some really harmful effects. So the reason of recycling and reusing is just so it stays in our system and doesn't get to anywhere else. And we can get the most out of what we've already made.
Okay. And how did you become involved with the film then, Yukan? And what was your role?
So me and Carly both planned out the video. We were told to make the video, and then we decided, all right, here's how we're gonna do it. We scripted it, we planned out all the scenes, and we got someone else to film themselves doing all of this, and then we made the video and then sent it here.
Yeah, and what are your plans for the video now?
I don't quite understand.
So where do you aim to release it? Who are you hoping sees it? What impact are you hoping that the video might have?
Oh, all right. So the reason that we chose to display kind of this daily life cycle is just so anyone who does see it will realize that some of these practices that they are doing themselves, and they might think, oh, that is contributing to ocean pollution, and might prompt themselves to change their ways.
So would that be for you, is that kind of the biggest marker of success, is that people see this, they see this video, and then they, some people change their ways. You can help to educate people, because we have seen how powerful the media can be in getting these messages across. So is that your ultimate goal then, is to change people's perceptions?
Yeah, that is the goal, is to change people's lifestyle so that it is more sustainable.
Do you think that things are changing? Have you noticed any change over recent years?
Yeah, one of the few small things is that some of the, if I order takeaway, some of the packaging is purely paper or comes in biodegradable or compostable plastic. So that's something that's really nice, because before it comes in a lot of tiny plastic packaging, and none of that was, well, all of it was single use.
So you think that you have actually noticed changes then, that people are, they're using less plastic, and the types of packaging that people use are different too?
Yeah, so that's one of the things I've noticed. People are becoming a bit more concerned of the environment now.
Do you think that most people, do you think that they are aware of the devastating environmental impact that plastic can have?
I don't think the majority of people know. I myself didn't really know how bad plastic was until about a year or two ago. Before that, I was just told, plastic it sticks around for a long time. It's really bad, but I never really understood why.
I think if I might cut in, another thing is that people on social media are also quite desensitized to a lot of people talking about the dangers and the effects of plastic pollution, even though it doesn't really make an impact on them because they don't know what specific things they can start with, what specific actions they can take to reduce the impact of plastic pollutions.
I mean, that's a very good question, Carly. Like, a lot of people will be listening or they'll be watching, they'll say, well, what difference does it actually make to my life? Like, why should I care if there's lots of plastic floating around in the ocean? Or why should I care if there's plastic on my doorstep or in the streets? What would be your opinion? What would you say to these people?
I think they need to consider that it's very much integrated into their future, their families or their businesses. It depends on, like, their lifestyles depend on continuing, and if we keep continuing these bad habits, they just won't they aren't sustainable. So to keep continuing these habits, it wouldn't be good for them in the long run, is my point.
Okay, so what can shops and companies be doing then to reduce the amount of plastic?
They should be switching to plastic-free, utensils or delivery, like packaging, that sort of thing, and also perhaps making it more accessible to people would also improve how people see it. And instead of seeing it as some sort of hipster lifestyle, or you're just doing it for how it looks, like they should integrate it into our lifestyles in a way that people accept it and see it as a normal part of our life.
And we asked you, Khan, earlier, have you noticed much change? Do you think that the tides are changing and that people are starting to reduce single-use plastic?
Yeah, that is definitely something that is changing. There are a lot of stores in Malaysia now that sell biodegradable or plastic alternative products. So that's a sign that some businesses are changing to adapt to their consumers who are more environmentally aware, you could say. So yeah, the tides are changing. I don't know how quick. I don't know if it'll be so soon, but they are changing, and that's a really, really good sign.
Yeah, and it did amaze me when I turned up to Sabah, and you would go to get your tapao, you'd go to get your takeaway, and every little bit of sauce was put in a different piece of a plastic container, and then you'd have one takeaway meal and you would have 5-6 different pieces of plastic pollution. So it's going to take quite a long time in order for people to actually get their mindset around it, for people to understand why this has to change, and it has to change soon, and why we're at such a critical point, not just in Sabah, not just in Malaysia, but elsewhere around the world. So Carly, what are your hopes for the film that you produced?
I think people need to realize how just even little things in our lives, just they do pile up, they do make a difference, and we need to change that now, as soon as possible.
So is that your final message to people then? Is that every little choice, every impact that you make can have a devastating effect on the environment, and that we need to think about that? Yeah.
Yes.
Yukan, any final thoughts from you?
No, the no.
No, that's it. Okay, great stuff. Thank you so much, guys. Really interesting. So we've seen now that there are changes happening. There are changes afoot. The tides are changing, but it's going to take a monumental effort on behalf of everyone, and that's not just the multinational companies. That we all have to take personal responsibility to reduce the amount of plastic that we're using, to reuse, and to recycle. So thank you so much for joining us today, everyone. Just like to talk briefly about the different webinars that are happening for the rest of the day. So at 10 o'clock, so we're going to have TEMBI and AP schools, pupils and teachers are going to be sharing their thoughts on the Plastic Ocean UK's education materials. And the moderator for this will be Ian Salis, who's the principal of TEMBI Schools. And then at 12 p.m, the session is Asking the Tough Questions on Plastic Pollution, which is where youth get to interview the adults. And the moderator is Melissa Tan, who, as we heard earlier, is the ambassador for Malaysia to the Earth Day Network. At 2 p.m, we have Education Awareness, Helping Solve the Plastic Pollution Problem in Malaysia. I'm going to be joining you again for that one. Explaining a little bit, explaining the bigger picture about how we can solve the plastic pollution problem in Malaysia. I'm going to be working with Simon, Monica Chin, Shavis, some really old friends of mine. That's going to be a big session. Lots of people joining us for that, so I hope you can too. Then at 3 p.m, we have the official launch of the Plastic Oceans UK's Films in Bahasa, Malaysia. Moderator on this will be Charles Hay from the British High Commission in Malaysia. And then at 5 p.m, we have Plastic Pollution Contributing to Climate Change, moderated by Paul Rose, who's the expedition leader at National Geographic Pristine Seas. And then it's a packed schedule, packed every hour. There is something happening. So I hope everyone's going to keep joining us throughout the day. And at 7 p.m, we have the creation of Sabah Plastic Neutral, a community movement, which again, I'm going to be bringing you. 8:30, plastic waste recycling initiatives in Sabah, community-based, again for myself. And at 10 o'clock, is the party, SPN party, which is celebrating a brand new Sabah. So I hope that everyone could join us throughout the day. Lots of fascinating talks, lots of discussions, and lots of great content on your way. So thank you everyone for joining us. It's very late night for me and an early morning for you guys. And we'll be seeing you throughout the day.
Thanks, Bertie, for that. And yes, thanks from me to everyone who's watching and listening. Thanks to all my fellow panelists. And as Bertie said, please do tune in for the rest of the webinars today. Thank you.
You